Roger Tomlinson is joining us from Positive Action Group, and on our display behind it says MHK's v MLC pay. You brought out a sort of, well, you consulted people, the MHKs, on what they're doing outside of just their government work. This is in the constituency thing, and you've got this number. You come up with these numbers, and you think there's a difference. There should be a difference, possibly, in the pay. Over to you for discussing that further.
That's right. Well, we've been following the work of MLC for a number of years now, and we found out in that investigation that MLCs sit as a body, Legislative Council, for 18 hours a year.
Is that it?
It's approximately 18 hours. In the last parliamentary year, they sat for 18 hours.
I know they had short agendas.
Prior to that, I think the highest year was 23 hours. So somewhere between 23 and 18 hours is the total workload as an MLC sitting in the Legislative Council.
They'll tell you they do much more outside that.
Well, of course, and there's preparatory work for that. They also sit in Tynwald, but so do MHKs. So that sort of made us think, well, why are we paying them all this money? So then David Cretney, who was a distinguished MHK, he became an MLC, and in December of last year he said his workload has reduced considerably since being a member of the Legislative Council. So he said there's no constituency matters. So what we tried to do was find out from the MHKs what their constituency workload is. Now,
you polled them all, but did they all respond?
Unfortunately not.
Do you want to name names or just number percentages?
I don't mind. There was Howard Quayle didn't respond, Bill Malarkey didn't respond, and Chris Robertshaw didn't respond, unfortunately. But that left us with 21, and of those 21 that were left, 3 didn't actually give a figure. We wanted a percentage estimate. Only an estimate, because this was a very subjective opinion they were giving us to their constituency workload.
Now, as it stands, MHKs and MLCs are on the same pay structure, and they get the uplift if they get onto boards. Is that correct?
That's right, yes, yes.
And they get the expenses and all this sort of thing, which
yes.
It does, to a lot of outsiders, it's always seemed a bit odd that that's been the case. Are you proposing an increase for MHKs or a decrease in salary for MLCs if these numbers
Well, what we're suggesting is that in terms of an MHK's pay, an MLC's pay is too high, because the average figure that we got from the 18 that did respond was 25% of their time is spent on constituency work. Now, that varied between one MHK said 5% of the time was constituency work, and another at the other end said 50%. We discounted those two high and low figures, and we took the average from what was left, and it's 25%.
Now, some MLCs, almost you could call them super MHKs if you like, that the whole island are people they respond to. You know, in that sense, they're all constituents. What do you say to that?
I just don't accept it. There's only 3 of the present MLCs that have actually been MHKs in the past. The others, the 5 new MLCs, or the latest intake, they haven't had any constituency work at all. So I can't see how they can count that as constituency work in what they're doing at the moment.
But you think, back to this question, it's not overpayment, it's underpayment? So no, you're saying it's overpayment for
exactly the opposite.
Yes, that's sorry. But MHKs might say, well, in fact, shouldn't we have 25% more? Because we're doing this extra work, and bump us up.
Well, what we've done is we've dodged that question as much as what we've said is we'll provide these findings to the Tynwald Emoluments Committee. Now, it's about time. We think they are working on this, and so we thought we'd have some pseudo-scientific input by giving this constituency workload figure.
Do you think they will be listening to you?
Well, I should think they'd be silly not to.
And why does it have
consider it?
Why should it be down to you anyway in the first place? Shouldn't they be? This should be something they should be thinking about, surely themselves.
Well, they may well be, but we don't know what goes on in the Tynwald Emoluments Committee.
No.
And bear in mind there are 7 on that committee, 3 MLCs and 3 MHKs, plus the Speaker as chair.
And when would you like this to come into fruition? If it
it's got to be in the next. I don't think they can introduce any amendment to the salary structure this Parliament. I think it'll
They've
have
got
to be
contractual
next
arrangements,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, I would think so. So it's really up to the Tynwald Emollients Committee if they take this work seriously. And it isn't, as I said earlier, it's pseudo-scientific in as much as it's an estimate based on a subjective opinion by MHKs. But I think it's been worthwhile in as much as we've actually asked them to analyse what they do, because it's a whole area that we, the voting public, know nothing about.
And if those 3 MHKs named actually did get in touch, but they got lost in the ether, that you still want to hear from them, though?
Of course.
With the numbers?
I don't think it'll make any difference statistically, but it would have been nice to hear from those 3 senior politicians.